because they don't want to be bringing a new system into a group of people that just can't even believe it. Oh, the little church lady, oh, well, they wouldn't do that. Oh, yes, they will. And they have, and they are, and they have. And you probably have heard of people losing their houses and having to live in their cars. That was all by intent. And last night I told you to Google 1892 Banker's Manifesto, and you will see over 100 years ago they had planned this to get you out of your homes so you wouldn't have any money to take care of yourself, and they would be able to overcome us as a whole easier. They're very patient with what they want to do to us. They do it by little amounts. Some other time I'll go into how I discovered what they were doing when it was back in the 60s. I did a lot of observing, and I held anti-communism meetings in my home in Orange County, California, when my kids were just toddlers. And, boy, if you don't think that was a sales job, and it wasn't successful, I had to give it up after a period of time. But I had good information, and we knew back then that what was coming down the pike, and it just kept going. It at warp speed, and so now we're where we're at. Okay, back to 1980s when I was in commercial real estate, just starting my career in the Midwest in commercial real estate and investments at that time. And I think most of you remember when interest rates, about 1980 to 81, I think, were up in 22% interest rates. They jumped from like 6 to 9 and then went all the way up to 22%. And I became known in the community, it was a large metropolitan area, as a very creative financial person. So I had a lot of people coming to me for ideas on how to finance properties and transactions. And so I learned a lot, okay? I learned a lot. So I've seen, a lot of different sides of everything, and it was appalling, but it was reality. And so anyway, lots of people were losing their farms to the IRS and the Federal Reserve. Well, in the 90s, in 93, in Colorado, I understand the first court case was in Fort Collins, and they were in federal court. The farmers won their case against the IRS and the Federal Reserve, and the court came down and said, yes, you farmers have won your case, indicating that the IRS and the Federal Reserve were fraudulent against the people of the United States of America and the Constitution. Okay, so then in 95 they went back in, I think in Denver in federal court, and I think that judge's name was Pringle, if I'm not mistaken. And they won again. Whatever the loose ends were that they had to clear up, they won again. And then they started arresting the farm claims people. The gentleman I had on my call last year for 3 months on every Friday night, which is archived out of Germany, and I'll leave it to Pam and her people if they want to let you have that information. That's up to you guys. I don't want to put that out there and distract from who you are and what you're doing. I'm just trying to educate you. I had this gentleman that went to jail for 8 years, and his wife went for 5 years. They lost everything. They lost their farm, their home, everything they had built for 30 years. Very tragic story. They were not guilty of anything. The dark agenda just wanted them out of the way because they knew how powerful they are. And they are. When I spoke to his wife the one time I did, she told me, she says, Carol, she says, my husband and I decided years ago that if we had to give our lives for our country, we would. These people, to me, are heroes, and he shudders when I call him a hero. They are so humble, and they are so beautiful, and they are for everybody getting their freedom and sovereignty. And he wrote a court case. He was instructed by the head guy in charge of this whole movement to write a court case that would go to the Supreme Court that would allow NESARA to go into motion, and he did. And they got the result from the Supreme Court that they wanted that cleared the way for NESARA to be announced. But from the time that they won the court cases out of Colorado, everybody has been under a gag order. Clinton he had a visit from a lot of important people, and he was forced to sign off on the NESARA law back in 2000 before his tour of duty as president was over. Now, I understand that the document has been pulled out of the safety position, and Obama now has signed off on this, and it's in security again. You are not going to see any documentation on this, the NESARA bill. You're not going to see any evidence of it. The closest you're going to get to it is what I'm sharing with you tonight. I promise you that. These people, the farm claims people, the military, the Pentagon, the White Knights, if you will, or A-Team, they're all working anonymously. If you remember the story I told you about Deep Throat and Bob Woodward that exposed Watergate and how they communicated and so forth, that's how they do it. Sometimes they don't even talk to one another. It's an amazing situation that this many people around the world can get something like this done in that fashion, because it has to be done undercover. Many lives are at stake. There was, what was it, 3 or 4 years ago, there was a shootout in the parking garage of the Capitol building, and you never heard a thing about it. There were many lives on the dark side, and many of our White Knights' lives were taken at that shootout. Our people were trying to get into the Capitol building to make arrests and serve papers, and there was a shootout. Many vehicles were damaged, and many windows blown out, and even the concrete walls of the Capitol had bullet holes and things like that where it chipped off the concrete. So what they did was they shut that parking garage down, and they called in people to repair the concrete and to repair the windshields in the cars and make all the repairs of all the vehicles and so forth. And it was those people were threatened with their life if they even talked about this operation as far as coming in to clean up the mess, okay? But there were many lives on both sides lost, and there's no way in the world you're going to find that on the computer or find out anything about it. That is very much never talked about. And so this is the first time I think I put it out to my family one time so that they would know. But I don't share everything with my phone family because there's stuff that could hurt people. But this is far enough away now. I think I'm safe in sharing that with you. The point is I want you to know there's much going on behind the scenes, much, and many lives have been lost on both sides that you are not going to hear about. You're not going to see the documentation. So when this fellow from White Hats, which is a dark agenda group, comes on and he says, well, I have been asking for years to see the NESARA document and any documentation for it. Well, I can't get it, and so it doesn't exist. What a bunch of baloney, excuse me. And he has shown himself to be of the dark. And so we've got the White Knights that are good. We've got the White Dragon Society with Benjamin Fulford that's on the good side. We've got the A-Team that's good. There's quite a few that are really good, and they're sprinkled all over the world. But the White Hats are definitely of the dark agenda, and that is my opinion only, okay? Just a disclaimer there. I listened to a call he was on one time, and I very nearly had a stroke, and I called my contact, and I said, I need some help. I said, I'm about ready to have a stroke over this thing. I said, I heard this guy talking, and these are the things. And my contact said, well, you should have hung up in when you heard the first one. I said, I can't do that. I've got a phone family to come back to, and a lot of my people listen to this call because I told them about it. And I said, they're listening to this nonsense, and I've got to be prepared to know what's going on so I can help, smooth over the damage that's being done on that call. And every one of the three things that this person from the White Hat said was, yeah, they're dark. I mean, he ridiculed NESARA, and he told everybody to take their Iraqi dinar money. He says, you need to get a tax attorney and blah, 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 and take your money offshore and find a bank, if you can, that's going to cash them in. What a bunch of nonsense. That's really bad. And then somebody asked about the Treasury and the Federal Reserve and the IRS, and they said, we've heard that the Treasury is going to be good and that the IRS and the Federal Reserve is going away. He says, you better get used to the IRS and the Federal Reserve being in our lives because they're never going to go away. Well, that isn't so. Our people have had control of those three agencies for several years. They've been working from the inside out to take and make the changes necessary for this big change. So, these were just some of the things that I've been able to hear that have just really broken my heart because it's leading people down a path they don't know. You people that don't know these things, you don't know. There was a time I didn't know. And so when people bring you information rather than saying, oh, that can't be, just get out of here, you're doing a disservice to yourself and to everybody else that could be helped and encouraged to know. Maybe it's true and maybe it's not, but that's for everybody to discern for themselves. Anyway, NESARA is real. I can't tell you when it will happen. Nobody knows. I tell my phone family, nobody knows but God, and that hopefully relieves the pressure and the responsibility of trying to fix everything. We can't. We have to, like I said before, go into prayer and meditation, and like my contact that I had on last year for 3 months said, grab a bag of popcorn, sit down, watch the TV, and watch a good sci-fi movie as it unfolds. That's the best we can do, and stay in touch with God through prayer and meditation, and ask for help for both sides, and those of the dark that are willing to come into the new reality and change their ways. We welcome them. We want them to come back to reality, the good side, if you will. We don't want bloodshed. That's not where we're coming from. We want everything to be done smoothly and efficiently. And when you stop and think of the tremendous scope of 180 countries, I've heard 130, 150, whatever, and they've scaled it down to 86 or 87 or whatever. However many countries it is, folks, it's a lot of coordination worldwide, okay? But that's what we're looking at, and it's bigger than you and me, and it's bigger than the United States alone. However, we were the people that started it. Now, are there any questions about what I've shared so far? If so, let's take a little time to try to answer and help you understand that, because I'm sure there's...
I can take a list if you want me to. Does anyone have any questions? Just start
Lynn?
Yes.
Let's try to... Okay.
Somebody is very garbled.
We have somebody else. Listen, I'm going to share with you. Lynn, can you share the line?
Yeah, hold on 1 second. All right, you should be clear now.
Okay, honey. Oh, boy, we've got that garbled again, but hopefully I can get this out to all of you. If you're on a speakerphone, whenever you talk on a conference call, take your speaker off. Speakers cause more conflict on a call. Some cell phones do too, and Skype often does. So if you have any one of those three, try to turn your speakers down on Skype, take your phone off speaker, and talk directly into your handset at regular voice, okay, or your desk phone, and that will help the situation immensely, okay? And my suggestion, Lynn, is...
Lynn, it's coming out of your phone, your end.
Okay, I'm going to come back in then, okay?
Okay.
Pam, if it's okay, if I make a suggestion on how we handle this, would that be okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's take 3 states instead of 5. Sometimes 5 states gets a little too long and people can't wait on the line that long. So if that's all right with you, let's just do 3 at a time.
Yeah, that's fine. Welcome back, Lynn.
Okay.
Texas?
You want me to, Texas?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Texas.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I missed the first part of your call. Is this going to be recorded?
Yes, ma'am. At the end of the night, you can dial back to the 7699 number and listen to the beginning.
Awesome. Okay. So now, this is just so unbelievable, and I'm not trying to be that in a bad way, okay? It's unbelievable in a good way. Because there's so many people hurting because of bailing out the banks and things like that. So this is going to take care of all of that issue. Is that correct?